the legislative process, and now that we actually have, I love coming to COP armed with legislative victories to be able to trumpet and to be able to have as an example of what other countries can do as well. So super excited that this series of bills, and I like to call it the three bills, the sort of body of laws that give life to this clean energy economy. The first, of course, I use the bipartisan infrastructure law. You use IIJA. Honestly, I don't even know if we should be talking. All three of them are the Biden climate agenda. But the first one I really think is sort of the backbone, because it allows us to give direct grants to technologies that we know we work, but we also need to take to scale. And so that's number one, and I hope we can talk a little bit about some of those technologies because it's very exciting. So that's sort of the backbone. The second piece is the brains, which is the Chips and Science Act. So investing in the microchips, obviously, that are embedded in so many of these technologies, but also in the science components, the research and development at the national labs that are doing so much work on the next generation of these technologies. So that's sort of the brains. And then the lungs is really the Inflation Reduction Act, because it is the Inflation Reduction Act that really benefits them in the private sector. I'll be super interested to hear from both of your perspectives about what it means for your business plans, because what we're hearing is enormous enthusiasm for being able to deploy, deploy, deploy. That is our mantra now. It is as Karen knows, Karen Skelton, who is my senior counsel at the Department of Energy advisor, and it is really the season of implementation, as we call it. Now it's not just about trying to figure out whether we can get these pieces of legislation across the finish line, but it really is demonstrating how they will benefit communities. And so the community piece of things, so important, because these bills are going to create 1.5 million jobs over the next 10 years. And where are those jobs going to be? How are communities going to organize themselves in the face of these opportunities? And what does it mean in terms of justice for communities that have been either frontline or fence line communities, and communities that are in transition from the fossil economy that they have grown up around? There's really specific provisions in all of those. You may be asking a question about that, so I don't want to jump ahead. But the bottom line is, these bills not only help to repair the planet and address climate change, but they help to repair communities as well, which is really exciting.
It is. And you said two things that I wanted to really dig into. I love how you described it in terms of the lungs and the brains of really how we're trying to move this work, and how that so closely relates to health in communities. And I'm going to come to you, Mayor Schaaf. I'm a former mayor, and once a mayor, always a mayor. That's the thing. Now we've got to figure out how to take what the Secretary just said and make it impactful and healthy to continue the health of our communities from not only a clean energy perspective, but also from just getting it done and what we see. How do you see this being impacted and deployed in Oakland, California?
In a million ways. And thank you for including mayors, because I'd like to think that we're the translators. We can take that alphabet soup that you just went through and talk about how it impacts real lives. Oakland, California is a blue-collar city. It has a working port, one of the busiest ports in America, and it has systemic racism and the impacts of disparities. So we are going to do what we always do when we do climate change, and that is lead with equity. And in Oakland, we have already received some federal government to electrify a lot of our terminal equipment so that the frontline communities that live up against our seaport, who have immoral levels of asthma, kids missing school because they have to be hospitalized for their asthma attacks, they are going to have less pollution in the air. You geeky scientists can call them GHGs, but I want to call it pollution because that's what a mother understands. And what I'm so excited about the Inflation Reduction Act is in Oakland, we've done our part. you know, we've used our legislative process to stand up a community choice aggregation. We call it East Bay Community Energy. That's already delivered, you know, $125 million in savings for our ratepayers. It's already reinvested $50 million in hundreds of EV charging stations and apartment buildings and places where regular folks can actually access them. But what we're looking for the IRA to do is actually help us start electrifying homes, existing homes.